The first season of any show is obviously going to be the first time that you see a lot of characters, but sometimes it's also the final time you see a lot of characters. Such is the case with the first season of That 70s Show, as a whole lot of people seem to have gone missing from Point Place, Wisconsin. Sure, there's plenty of characters that make one-off appearances. You got the overly friendly truck driver with the voice of Salem the Cat, The Rock in one of his first acting roles playing his father, and Red and Kitty's friends who wound up becoming a swinger couple. Of course, all of these were meant to be episodic characters, cameos, and guest appearances. But the same can't be said for the next couple inclusions, as Joseph Gordon-Levitt was brought in to play Buddy, Eric's new buddy, who turns out to want to be more than just buddies with him. Eric, of course, turns him down, but remains his friend, only for that character to never make an appearance or get mentioned again. Apparently, this character was meant to be reoccurring, but didn't test well with audiences for one reason or another, so was axed. Allegedly, some claim it's because of homophobia, but that's really never been entirely confirmed. What can be said for absolute certainty is that this character wasn't making the impression that showrunners hoped for. Maybe much more importantly, in that very same episode, the show also introduces audiences to Frank, who's a dude who works at the hub where the Point Place posse hangs out at. He's an overly sarcastic jerk who's tired of the teens loitering.
Hey, I did not lose a leg in Vietnam so that I could serve hot dogs to teenagers.
You have both your legs, Frank.
Like I said, I did not lose a leg in Vietnam.
He didn't really have much to do, but he was a fun addition for the brief time he was on screen, and a sad subtraction when he left it. It just seems a little odd to me that someone who works at a pretty prominent place in the show, who knows the leads by name, and was seen several times throughout the episode, was a character that was made to be a one and done, especially when the part was played to perfection by comedian Mitch Hedberg. Much more surprising than that was the case of Chrissy, a punk rock chick that seemed to be Hyde's absolute equal.
I'm Chrissy.
I'm Hyde.
Who cares?
I think I love you.
Love is an outdated concept used by industrialists to keep women subservient.
Naturally, the rebel without a cause falls head over heels for her. Unsurprisingly, there's a spark between these two live wires. But that fire is unfortunately extinguished when Hyde doesn't leave Point Place with her. The first time I watched this series, I was genuinely surprised to see that she didn't return. I was kinda hoping that she'd show back up in town at random, especially given the way that they leave things off. I think there was a lot of room to tell stories between these two, and it kinda sucks that that was never the route they went with these characters. Not only that these two were never really an item, but also that Hyde was never placed into a relationship with this type of character afterward. This short-lived fling has to be at the high end of Hyde's love interests. But what I find most interesting is that a bunch of these missing characters are characters you would think would have big roles on the show. Or, at the very least, bigger roles on the show. Most of the main characters' parents are apparently absent, which I guess would explain why they spend so much time in the foreman's basement. Kelso's father makes his only appearance in an episode this season. His characterization is a little bit vague. He just seems like a generic fatherly type, and his interaction with his son is meant to show off how different they are. Whereas Michael is dumb and immature with a big personality, his father is fairly intelligent, responsible, and, for lack of a better word, boring. Though all of this seems retconned later on, with characters' mentions and depictions of the father making him sound like a carbon copy of his son. Naturally, Fez's parents don't make an appearance as they're back in his home country, wherever that may be. His host parents, however, are depicted as being brutal, Bible-thumping religious extremists. Once again, these are characters that would be mentioned again from time to time, but they would never be seen again, nor would they play into any plot moving forward. It seems like as time went on, the show started to adapt a tell don't show policy, which is a great policy to have if your name was That 70s Tell. Jackie's father always seems to have some presence in the show. He's very often mentioned by his daughter, and in future seasons, there are actually developments with this character. But season 1 is the only time he actually makes a physical appearance, which is kind of unfortunate. You would think that there was more creative concepts for the character, and especially with him having a part to play later on, it would require him being present to play that part, but not so. Apparently all you have to say is that it happened off screen, and it is accepted.
You know how Jackie's father is the city councilman? Not anymore. He just got arrested for bribery. He could go to prison.
Jackie's mother makes an appearance this season as well, when she's showing off a house that her daughter and her friends are having a party in. The character would later return all the way in season 6, but this time she's played by Brooke Shields, at which point she began playing into actual plots. But in season 1 of the show, it's a walk-on cameo by Eve Plum, who is probably best remembered for playing the part of Jan Brady. Oh, thank you for doing a nostalgic walk-by. Enjoyed the paycheck. Hyde's father is absent, but in a way, his presence is still felt, both in Hyde's overall character and development, and much more blatantly when his mother makes a comparison between the two.
Gee, what a surprise. Lazy, just like your father.
No, actually, I'm lazy in a way that's entirely my own.
Always a smart-ass, Stephen, just like your father.
You know what? One thing he did do right, he left. Edna's riding me again about being just like my dad, so I just took off.
Didn't your dad take off?
Irony, far out.
His absence serves the narrative. Him not being around is a part of the story. It's an important part of Hyde's story. But what's everyone else's excuse? Though I think the biggest loss out of all these part-time parents has to be Hyde's mother, who was played by TV mom vet Katie Seagal. Hyde and his mother's relationship may have been dysfunctional, but their dynamic was fun. They didn't always get along, and often their bantering became bickering, but there was still love there. Edna was depicted as being the school's lunch lady, so it seemed like the character was supposed to be reoccurring, though somehow in the end she didn't make the cut. As later this same season, it's announced that pretty much like Hyde's father, she too has abandoned him, which serves the plot.
Your mom really just ran off with some trucker.
No, Foreman, I made it up because it sounds so classy.
That's right, Stephen, just walk, just like everyone else.
Irony.
I'm not being a very good mom, am I?
No.
Past the parents, there are also plenty of siblings who suddenly silently go missing. Red's overly emotional brother Marty makes an appearance this season.
He doesn't have the emotional tools to deal with this tragedy.
You're an emotional tool, Marty. It's just that when I feel bad, I don't cry like a little girl.
And then stops existing entirely after. This same season, another brother Jerry is mentioned.
Your brother Jerry has a beautiful car, a Lincoln. But then he makes more money, a lot more money than you do.
But again, that's it. These characters cease to exist. Their inclusion is followed by a swift exit and a denial of their existence. It's understandable as to why. These people were made for the expressed purpose of the plot of the episode, and past that plot, they don't really have a part to play. What's less understandable is when characters' siblings are introduced without rhyme or reason and then forgotten in a very similar manner. Donna's older sister Valerie is mentioned in passing, and a few episodes later, we're introduced to her younger sister Tina.
Hello, pretty lady.
Hi.
She's not a pretty lady, she's my sister.
She shows up for one scene and then is never seen again. She's mentioned once or twice after, but nothing after that. This change feels exceptionally strange, as Tina's only appearance is literally just an excuse to introduce the character before forgetting about her entirely. Donna's never before seen older sister is actually referenced several times after her actually shown younger sister is completely forgotten about. So, you make sense of that because I'm tired of trying. A lot of these inclusions just come down to simple trial and error. During the early days of a show, it's still trying to find its footing and figuring out its fingerprint, finding out what does or doesn't work for it. Though I don't know I'd say a lot of these roles didn't work. I think it's more that there was nothing for them to do. Most of these characters weren't integral to the story that was being told, and didn't have much of a need to be seen past their initial parts. Maybe with the exception of Jackie's father, who continues to play into plots despite not actually appearing. But then again, I guess attendance is a bad way of testing for love. Having said all of that, these were the characters that went missing after the first season of That 70s Show. Usually I ask you to leave me a nice little comment in the comment section and let me know that you guys enjoyed yourself. But instead, if you like this video and you want to see more That 70s Show content here on the channel, I want you to tell me what you think these characters are up to today.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, If you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.